Hey guys, it's Robin and welcome to my channel. I'm going to be covering the case of Brandon Swanson, and if you guys have heard of this case, you are probably as confused and creeped out as I am. Let's just start with who Brandon was prior to his disappearance. So Brandon was born on January 30th of 1989. He was raised by his parents, Brian and Annette Swanson, and he had a really close relationship with them. He also had a younger sister. Like, they were a very tight family. So the family, they lived in Marshall, Minnesota. The town itself is home to a population of around 13,000, so it's not very big. It's not too small, but it's not very big. The town covers about 10 square miles. The area is mostly rural and it's known for agriculture, so think farms, just empty plots of land for miles and miles and miles. So that's the area he really grew up in. He actually went to local schools his entire life, and in 2007 he graduated from Marshall High School. So growing up, he was very intelligent. He was an avid reader. He was great at reading, you know. He had a passion for science. He excelled in school. And so it wasn't a surprise when after school he decided he'd want to go to college to study wind turbines and, you know, just flourish in the science field. He ended up going to Minnesota West Community and Technical College in an area named Canby. Now Canby was 30 miles away from his home and it allowed him to commute. So throughout the year, he would go back and forth to school, and he did very well that year. He made it through all of his classes. He made it through the year, and his classes ended on May 13th of 2008. And so instead of going home, he decided to celebrate with his friends. So the first one was a small get-together in a place called Lind, which was about 8 miles from Marshall. The second party was in Canby, and that's, as I said before, 30 miles away from Marshall. He actually had to drive past his hometown to get there. So yeah, he ended up going to these parties, and that night he was seen drinking alcohol at both parties. Despite this, his friends and people who were at the party say that he did not appear to be intoxicated. So like, he had a few drinks but just didn't appear to, you know, be completely plastered. This is actually really important because he will actually end up leaving the party in Canby to make the 30-mile drive home. He left before midnight, and so sometime between him leaving the party and going back to his home, he got into a car crash. He ended up driving his car, a green Chevy Lumina, into a ditch and was unable to get it out of on his own. So it's unknown whether this was due to him drinking. It should be noted that he is legally blind in his left eye, and that he lives in such a rural area that at night would be very, very dark. You know, if you live in a rural area yourself, that sometimes there's no street lights, and all you have to guide you is really your own headlights and the road, like the actual road itself. And so you really don't have much to guide yourself with. So imagine having a few drinks, being legally blind in one eye, and then having to drive through the darkness. That's just, honestly, to me, a recipe for disaster and just a lot of bad choices on his part. But I'm sure because he grew up in the area, he probably felt very comfortable making that drive. So regardless of all of that, he crashed into the ditch, of course, and according to cell phone records, he tried calling friends first to come help him out. And when that didn't exceed, he ended up calling his parents, and this was just before 2 a.m. He told them what happened, advised that he wasn't hurt, and he asked them to come pick him up. So here's where the confusion and the speculation in the case becomes a big deal. Brandon, when he is talking to his parents on the phone, he believes he's in Lind, and Lind, as I said before, is 8 miles away from his hometown. And so he describes his location as being a gravel road that runs along a golf course in Lind. This is really, really specific. Like, this sounds like a place he's been before. Like, he probably like knows in his mind. He's like, oh, I'm right here. This is the road. It's near the golf course that he might be familiar with. So his parents, they set out and they keep him on the phone and they get into their car to go pick him up. So Brandon tells them that he's gonna stay near his car and that he's gonna keep flashing his headlights on and off so they can find him. The call drops a bunch of times and his parents, like, they are really struggling to find him. They're flickering their lights off and on, he's flickering his lights off and on, and they both kind of confirm to each other like they can't see each other, even though his parents should be right around where he is. Now his dad Brian said that Brandon seemed positive of where he was stranded. Like, he seemed to really know the location of where he was. Eventually they give up on this and he tells his parents, he's like, he's gonna walk toward the lights that he can see, which he believes is Lind. So Brandon tells his father to head to the parking lot of a local bar called Lindwood Tavern and to wait for him. So clearly, like, this is a specific location. Like, this kind of solidifies like how much he knows, even though we don't really know the extent because we don't know Brandon. We know that he really knows this town and he's really familiar with it. He knows exact places and exact locations and areas. So you would think in your head, like, he's really sure of where he is. So his father goes home, you know, he drops the mother off and then he begins driving to this tavern area. And I want to clarify that they're talking on the phone again the entire time, like even while he's driving on his way there. So Brandon says he's walking on the gravel road toward lights, which he says he believes is Lind. He also mentions fences a lot. He says he like runs into them a lot and he gets, you know, frustrated like trying to get around them, jump over them. He also mentions hearing running water, and, you know, meanwhile his father's still, like, you know, kind of waiting for him. He doesn't seem like, his father isn't really worried though, because his son sounds like he's okay. He sounds fine. They're talking on the phone. Like, it's just like a normal night. He's just like trying to find the location of his son. So they're on the phone and this is like a continuous 47 minutes that they're just talking on the phone. And then so it comes around to like 3:10 a.m. and then Brandon suddenly stops talking on the phone and shouts, "Oh shit." And then immediately after that, the connection is lost. So the father, he tries calling back again and again, and it is to no avail. And this is sadly the last time that Brandon is ever heard from. So that same night, after being unable to locate Brandon, his father calls his wife and friends of Brandon to help search for him. They search along the highway, they search along side roads, gravel roads. They search all throughout the night into the morning, and they're still unable to find him or his car by sunrise. The parents end up calling the police around 6:30 a.m. on May 14th to file a police report. Now, I believe, like in many cases of missing persons that go unsolved, I believe that the police completely mishandled this case. They were pretty much kind of like, they shrugged it off. They're like, it's not uncommon for a teenager, you know, to get drunk and not come home. One officer even told the parents that he had the right to be missing if he wanted to be. But realistically, he called his parents to come pick him up after he got into a little accident. And they were just unable to locate him. And after, you know, that call where he's like, "Oh shit," and then hangs up, and they can't get back to him, like, clearly they're gonna be worried. Like, he wanted to go home. He wasn't trying to avoid his parents or like sneak out or be shady or anything. He wanted to be found. So I feel like the police should have handled this a lot more serious. It just makes no sense that they would respond to a case like this. Like, I understand if it's like they just couldn't find him and he was like seen out partying, but they were literally searching for him for hours. They were searching for him for hours after a really strange call. So I feel like they should have taken this a lot more seriously. So while the police weren't really that quick to respond to this missing persons report, they did take his cell phone records. And with this, they found out that he was actually way off from where he said that he was. Like, he said he was in Lind, and it turns out he was 25 miles away from Lind, which explains why his parents were unable to locate him. And so they find his car 25 miles away from Lind in a completely different town. That area, they end up searching and they locate his car, and it's on a gravel road with the surrounding areas being like farmland and grassland. This made everything a lot harder, of course, because it turns out that despite what Brandon was saying and telling people, like telling his parents about his location, he was in a completely different location. Also, like, the police don't know which direction he went in. So even if he crashed here, he could have gone in so many different directions. Like, they don't know. And another thing is that because it's a very rural area, there is speculation that there are no visible lights in that area. Reportedly from the police, they say that there is a red light in the distance, which is like an elevator light, but for him to think this red light is leading to a town he's familiar with, he said he saw lights, like plural, and that he was heading towards town. Like, I cannot imagine a half-blind guy saying, oh, I see lights, plural, and I'm going towards this town that I'm familiar with, and I'm following this gravel road on a golf course. Like, you would have thought he would have realized immediately, like, oh, this isn't a golf course, this is a different area. But no, his dad said he seemed so sure of where he was, to the point where he's like, oh, I'm walking towards these lights and I'm going into town, like a town that I knew, to meet my dad at this specific bar. Like, that just creeps me out. It's so freaking weird. So confusion aside, they do a clean sweep of the area trying to find him. They even bring tracking dogs in, and so the dog they bought with them brings the police down a path that actually passes some fences and comes to a river called the Yellow Medicine River. It's described as a river, but residents say it's more like a creek. That could explain the water he heard, but it just turns out that after the tracking dog like gets to that area, like past the river, there's a road on the other side, and that's where the scent ends. That's where, you know, the dog stops. Clearly, like, they've done so many searches in the area. Like, literally that month they probably did like hundreds and hundreds of searches for him. And they have been unable to find him or any of his items. You know, they use law enforcement tracking dogs, months, years, like not even his wallet, a phone, or anything of his. Nothing of his, no clothes or anything have popped up or have resurfaced, which is very weird. It's very strange because it's very, very cold where he lived. I would say that it's possible that he did get, you know, maybe he did succumb to the climate, the cold, but I also just find it very strange the way the phone call ended. There are lots of theories in this case, some that he possibly fell into the river, some that he fell and died of exposure, and some that there was foul play. And all I know is that this case literally gives me the chills. Like, the biggest thing for me is that he appeared to his dad to be so positive of where he was, to the point where he was giving out direct locations, direct places. And yeah, he might have like had a few drinks and been a little drunk, but I find it so strange that he said he saw lights. Like, he saw the town of Lind ahead of him, that he was completely in the wrong place. And not only that, but that place is like a rural flatland, farmland like area, and not even only that, like the only light was a red light in the distance. Like, that does not sound like where he was going or the town he was going for, but I really have no idea. I just want to know, like how did he not realize that he wasn't on the golf course he thought he was in originally, you know, after a while of walking? Like, how did he not realize that? Like, golf courses have really distinct layouts. If you've ever been on one, you know this. Like, it's really distinct. Also, like, why did he see the lights in the distance? Lights he believed that belonged to the city of Lind. There's just so many questions that I have, and they only lead to more questions. This case overall is rather strange, and I honestly think there has to be, like, without a doubt, there's like some cases where I'm like, oh, the person might have ran off. Oh, like this might have happened. Especially if like nothing of theirs has ever been found. If, you know, they just disappeared into thin air. I'm usually like thinking like, this is like an option that, hey, possibly, you know, this happened or possibly this happened. But I honestly think due to the fact that he was on the phone with his parents, then something happens that makes him scream, oh shit. And he literally doesn't answer his phone after that. Like, that's the last time someone hears of him. The last thing his father heard was him say, oh shit, and then the line goes dead. Like, something had to have happened to him to make him react that way. Some people are like, oh, maybe he like broke his leg or something. Maybe he fell, this and that. But I'm like, none of those would lead to him not getting back up and calling his dad back immediately, or answering the probably hundreds of calls he got after his friends, his mom, everyone started searching for him again. Like, none of that really adds up to that. So I honestly think maybe it could have been someone accidentally hit him. He came across someone who had bad intentions on the road, and like someone tried to hide a body, and who knows if we'll ever find him. But that's all the facts of the case, guys. Like, honestly, comment down below, tell me what you guys think. I have no idea what to think about this case. I'm gonna be freaking honest. All I know is that I think foul play was involved. I really hope that this case is solved one day, but I don't know. I just feel like it'll be a very long time until it is, just because the locations are all messed up. The suspicious phone call, like the end of that phone call where he's like, oh shit. Like, just the confusion of the case overall and all the doubts. I just don't know if it'll ever be solved. I really hope it is though. But yeah, comment down below what you guys think about this case. Comment down below if this gives you the heebie-jeebies. Comment down below if I forgot anything and you guys wanted to add something in. I try to put in as much information as I could and be as accurate as possible. So if I got anything wrong, just, you know, tell me in the comments down below. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you guys are new here, hit that subscribe button. And as always, I love you guys, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.